Virginia, Republican line.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Hey, thank you again for C-SPAN. There's a lot of information that we otherwise would not get without you. I was the senior collection strategist for domestic terrorism at the Director of National Intelligence from October of 2020 to January of 2021. And during that time, I personally warned the FBI Domestic Terrorism Task Force about a potential, what in the military we call a black swan. And a black swan is an event that you can't anticipate, that you can't plan for, but in the military, we use that term so that we can come up with ideas that might spin out of control. And if you'd have asked me at the time, what is a potential black swan, I would have said something happening like the Rittenhouse case, the situation, or I would have said something like one of the capitals in the United States being taken over by a militia of some kind. So these things were floated to the FBI way early. After January of 2021, I wrote a 50-page white paper and published it on Amazon. It's inside the FBI's domestic terrorism strategy. And I wrote it just like I would write any other intelligence report on any other country in the world. The question we have to be asking is not whether or not Trump did this. What we need to be asking ourselves is, why are hundreds of thousands of Americans willing to converge on Washington because they believe the election was stolen? And I do not believe that. I believe there was some unconstitutional stuff that the governors implemented during COVID, but I don't agree that it was stolen. I just believe that there were unconstitutional things that may have taken place in the election that will only be able to be resolved by the Supreme Court. But the three findings that I came to as a conclusion that led so many thousands of Americans to converge on Washington, D.C. was, number one, we've got to have, our government officials have to have absolute true faith and allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. And a lot of people went to Washington, D.C. in support of the president because of the FBI counterintelligence investigation, the Russia collusion investigation, all things that were carried out by the government against the sitting president that motivated people to attend the rally. The second thing is, we don't have a mental health, or we don't have a gun violence problem in the United States. We have a mental health crisis, and the gun violence argument is used by a lot of people to go after the Second Amendment in the United States, which motivates people to be very defensive against elements of the Constitution that otherwise will not be defended. So we've got to focus on the mental health crisis and stop talking about a mythical gun violence problem, because most deaths by firearms are actually suicides, which is mental health. And then the third thing, the final recommendation, and thank you so much for giving me time to get this out, the third recommendation I make is government transparency. The American people are very, very forgiving, but you've got to be honest. If the government makes a mistake, like Waco, Texas, or Ruby Ridge, or a fraudulent counterintelligence investigation against Carter Page, or against Donald Trump, or whatever Watergate, or whatever the government mistake is. If the government immediately comes out and says, hey, look, we made a mistake, we screwed this up, it shouldn't have gone this way, we're implementing change to correct it, then you would not have a lot of these conspiracy theories that come up that are people trying to find out what really happened.
Okay, Tom, appreciate your insight. We'll go to Oliver in Falls Church, Virginia, on the independent line. Oliver, you're on the air. Oliver, mute your volume. Go ahead with your comment, please. All right, we're going to go on to Tom on the Democrats line, Miamisburg, Ohio.